My name's Manda Thompson and I'm an art therapy lecturer here at Chester University, and I also practice 2 days a week privately, supervising newly qualified art therapists in school and also working in schools with looked after children.
What is it exactly that you teach when you teach art therapy?
Everything really, from the background underpinning theories, so some sort of psychodynamic theory around Klein, Winnicott, experiential sessions, so the students are making art and then reflecting on their pieces, to supporting trainee art therapists in placement. I also sit on an ethics committee, so considering ethics applications and being able to tell students how to put ethics applications together as well. So I tend to try to emphasise to people just how financially, emotionally, academically demanding a course it is.
What is it that sparks people's interest in art therapy in the first place, would you say?
A desire to work closely with people, supporting people in challenging situations, when people are struggling, not perhaps using the most effective or helpful coping strategy, and using art making as a way to change people's support strategies and change how they feel about their situations.
What kind of funding is put into art therapy, do you know, and how could it be improved? It's a big question, I know.
Yes, funding for training, certainly. We're the only allied health profession that doesn't get any sort of grant or bursary assistance, so all our students are entirely self-funding. Some are lucky enough to have their employers funding or part funding their training, but most are funding it themselves. Then when it comes out into the workplace, the commissioning of services is it seems to be quite sort of haphazard according to the area you live in, and the understanding by the commissioning groups as to how art therapy can contribute to the all-round understanding and healthcare of clients. So, for instance, in my schoolwork and small charity work that I used to do, we were funded by local governments. Then obviously when the grants to the local governments got severely cut, our service was one of the first services to sort of, suffer from that withdrawal of funding.
Where do you think people should put more funding in? Do you think more funding should be put into art therapy in general? And how do you think they could do that?
I think certainly services like CAM services should, at the very least, ensure they've got at least one art therapist within their service, particularly because it's so pertinent with children and young people who struggle to find words, and art therapy has proved over and over again how beneficial it can be for young people's services. But then also the other, looked after children, displaced children, refugees, asylum seekers, having a non-verbal therapy is, I think, essential as a means of their support and emotional expression.
Would you then say it would be more important than some other kinds of therapy, would you say?
I think as a psychological therapy it should take precedence over something like CBT, which, although it's shown to be effective in the short term, in the longer term it does involve quite often a revolving door where people are coming back. Also, it requires a lot of cognitive abilities which children, young people with learning disabilities don't have. So art therapy would be very good to be used as a sort of precursor to perhaps more formal psychological talking therapies.
What would you say to people who've never tried it and would actually want to, but have maybe, been put off in some way? What would you say to them? What would you say to them if they wanted to try and get into it?
Into art therapy?
Yeah, just as a patient, essentially.
So if they wanted to refer themselves for art therapy, they can do so. They can go on the back website and find the nearest practitioner to them. Alternatively, they could perhaps contact the university where art therapists train, and usually those universities have got a list of practicing art therapists in the area. To try and find an art therapist and go and chat to them and talk about whether it would be suitable or appropriate for them. And to maybe go on an introductory day or a foundation course where they can get an experience of what it might be like to work with the materials in a very therapeutic way.